The energy market could face criminal proceedings under plans being considered by the government. The Energy Secretary has announced a package of reforms, including cutting the time it takes consumers to switch supplier and a review of competition in the market. Labour says their promise of a price freeze has pushed firms to call for the review because they know it will lead to nothing.
I want 5 weeks switching to come down to 1 week switching, and then I want to go faster still. Mr. Speaker, let us be clear, this will not happen overnight. We could announce 24-hour switching and then suppliers would say, OK, we will put up our prices to cover the cost. That cannot and will not happen. From day one, this coalition government has been determined to take on the Big Six for consumers. Yeah, they don't like it. They don't like it. That is why I intend to consult on the introduction of criminal sanctions for anyone found manipulating energy markets and harming the consumer interest.
We're joined by the CEO of PassivSystems and consumer energy campaigner, Colin Calder. Hi, Colin. Thanks for joining us on Sky News this afternoon. Tell us about passive energy systems to start with. What's that?
So we're developing solutions for consumers to help them reduce their energy bills. And we do that by using smart technology that basically learns about how your home is performing, how quickly it loses heat. And then we start to make the equipment in your home, like your boiler, your central heating system, work far more efficiently for you. And so on the consumer trials we ran for a year-long period, we demonstrated 23% energy savings through the deployment of our technology.
That's very clever, isn't it? We're certainly going to need it, aren't we, if these bills keep going up. At the moment, it just seems to be incredibly difficult for people to choose to swap to a different supplier. So if you're suggesting that potentially people should do that, how can they do it? I mean, it seems to take weeks at the moment.
Well, I think there are a number of issues in here. I think, first of all, I want to say it's fantastic that at last consumers are top of the agenda when we're talking about the energy industry. For far too long, they've been the forgotten agenda. They've been the forgotten people in this equation. So I think from what David said today, some progress. But look, there are some real issues about how we make switching work for consumers. First of all, we don't have meters in homes that provide real-time readings of energy consumption. And that's what smart metering is all about. So if you want to change your energy supplier, it's quite difficult at the moment because we have estimated receipt readings. There's a whole lot of issues about how we do bill settlement and actually execute that change of supplier and do it quickly. So I think, first of all, we've got to get some basic building blocks in place. One of those is smart metering.
Sounds expensive.
It is expensive if we take it in isolation. But I think what we're championing for here is to get on the political agenda how we provide real value to consumers out of the deployment of smart meters. And I want to just say a few words on that. First of all, the way the energy industry runs today is that if we need more generation, we just turn on more power stations. And that's been really easy, and it's how the industry has operated for decades. Now, as we transition to using more and more renewables, you can't turn them on and off. The weather decides when we're going to get that energy supply. Now, obviously...
But you can tap that, presumably.
Well, you can, but the most important thing is to recognise that if we can start to adjust consumption to availability of supply, and we can pass the value of making the consumption map the availability of supply, which will always be the lowest cost energy, then we can start to transfer real value to consumers.
What does that mean? What does that mean I can only put the kettle on when it's windy?
No, what it means is if you start using smart technology in the home, which is capable of taking time of use price signals from a smart meter, so the smart meter says, okay, energy is cheap now, would you as a consumer like to take advantage of it? If your equipment in the home then is able to respond to that signal, you can actually decide whether or not you want to take the cheap energy. Now, in certain cases, it may mean that, for instance, your fridge and freezer doesn't run for an hour or 2 hours because it's smart enough to know it doesn't matter. So there's no need for you to be using the expensive energy. Other equipment, like a kettle, you may want to say, no, I want the right to use my kettle whenever I want to. And so I don't want you to be trying to get me the cheap energy when I use it. But what we're really advocating here is, look, we need to find a way of making clean energy affordable. And the only way of doing that is to get consumers engaged in being the beneficiaries of helping the grid operate more efficiently.
Okay. Sadly, we're out of time, but it's fascinating. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it, Colin. Thank you.